Well, we just lost Takeoff as well. And that one really shocked me and the rest of the world. And we don't really know what happened yet. There is lots of videos that are circulating. Academics did a pretty good job kind of breaking down who he thinks did it. There's rumors that this guy's the shooter and then this guy's been killed. And no, it's actually Takeoff's guy or security that did it on accident. We don't really know. There have been no arrests. Yeah. But it's an ugly situation. And it's such an unnecessary situation when you look at it. With someone who's only 28 years old.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, Migos are probably certainly of the modern era, most relevant group, most popular group, most selling group. You kind of have to go back in time a little bit to remember groups that are relevant to having this conversation.
Yeah, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul,
NWA, Public Enemy, Wu-Tang.
Right.
But I would say that in the modern era where groups are a lot less popular, that basically you just have to say that Migos are the most relevant group of the last 10 years. And Takeoff kind of always seemed like just such a good guy. Everybody I know who ever had anything to do with him. Quavo, a little controversial at times, Offset, whatever. They'd be getting into shit. Takeoff, you almost never heard anything negative about him. And then when you look at how that situation played out, if we're going to just kind of go on what seems to be the case, it's like the accusation is basically like an argument started and then somebody maybe on the other side fired a shot that just sort of accidentally hits Takeoff. I don't know who it was meant for. And then allegedly somebody from their side fires another shot that also hit him. I don't understand how the fuck 2 bullets could hit this guy who's supposedly not even involved in this. But I mean, it's sad because that to me right there is just an argument against going outside, being up in the mix. Because, if he had been in the studio or if he had been sitting on the couch in the Airbnb or whatever, this situation wouldn't have happened. And I also just what was going on in this argument? Because you see Quavo arguing about basketball or some shit. It's some silly little argument. What the fuck has to happen in order for people to start shooting at each other? It's just kind of hard to even wrap your head around how a friendly dice game could get to that point so quickly. And maybe we'll find out details that'll kind of make sense of it to us. But I mean, just looking at the situation, a lot of people look real bad. And the whole situation just looks disgusting. That kind of situation just makes me be like, oh, right, I'm staying in the house. I'm not trying to be out in these functions and little events like this because anything could go wrong,
Look, dice games are generally not that friendly as a whole. I remember I had a really long discussion with someone who grew up in the hood, in one of the worst neighborhoods, on the East Coast. And she just broke it down to me dice games usually end in some level of robbery, right? This is why people are so, if you watch people play dice, they're usually really down on the ground, really close to their money, because you got a situation, and everyone knows someone that has had some level of tragedy involving a dice game.
It's kind of a cliche, yeah.
No, really, I know someone who got killed in a dice game, right? You're sitting there with a whole bunch of people, some of which you know, some of which you don't know. There's a whole bunch of cash in the middle of a pile. There's no regulation. It's not a casino, right? There's no security. There's no cameras. It's a bunch of cash. Sometimes people are betting with money they don't really have.
Yeah.
There's usually guns all around the vicinity. At some point, and there's a certain inherent level of shit talking involved with playing dice, right? I've played dice with people and I've talked shit. They've talked shit to me. I remember I lost a friend in high school over a dice game because the amount of shit that I talked, he said, yo, we really didn't like the way you were talking shit in the game. I'm like, oh, I thought that's what you're supposed to do. But people's feelings were hurt. And when the money gets big, people start to make their own rules. Nah, the dice hit your foot. Roll again. And if they're got more guns or more clout than you do, what are you going to do? You want to walk away from the dice game because you're done. And that person's like, nah, you're not going to walk away until you get your money, until I get my money back. What do? Or someone comes in and just robs the fucking whole dice game, period.
Right. Because why wouldn't they? There's so much fucking cash. And this is the thing is, throughout my time doing interviews and stuff, I met a shitload of different rappers who are like, oh yeah, I was making all this money for this period of time playing dice. okay, the reality is that dice is a break-even game. If me and you sit here and we play dice for 1 million hours, at the end of it, we're going to both have the same amount of money within a reasonable variation.
There's no skill involved.
There's no skill. So the only skill is basically being a finesser, managing to sort of like bend the rules. Like there are people who claim that they could shoot the dice and make it land a certain way. There is some truth to that. It's very, very difficult. But I was just thinking about it like culturally. I play poker, right? I've never heard of anyone being killed in a poker game. I can think of a couple of stories of people like getting in fistfights at poker games. And for the most part, poker games take place in casinos where there's a ton of security, cameras, nobody can steal, etc. Or they take place in home games, which for the most part are very, very well secured. Because if I'm going to put on a home game for a poker game, it's basically required that I'm the bank, that I'm the security, that I'm everything, right? So it's like, the idea of putting yourself into a position where you're going to have that much money, like I have money on deck at the casino now, so I never have to carry it. You know, I have like $100,000 at the casino. So if I want to play, I go there. I know, and it's terrible because I'm not earning interest on it while it's there, but at least it's better than rolling around with a backpack with 50 grand in it. You know, it's like I don't want to ever be in a position where somebody would have a reason to rob me. You know, so. Even just that, like, I mean, these guys are all carrying huge amounts of money, I'm assuming, while they're playing. It's just like a terrible situation to put yourself into. And I mean, yeah, I'm glad that I never got adjusted to that sort of experience because it just seems like way too much risk involved right there.
Well, Takeoff got killed. 2 other people got shot.
Right.
Quavo's assistant was one of the people who got shot.
Right.
I guess he's in stable condition at this point. We don't know who the other person is. Mob ties, Jay Prince's crew is, wrapped up in this whole situation. You see, like, Jay Prince Jr. walking away from the dead body after it happens. I heard that Quavo passed out. It is sort of sad how, during this whole situation, the Migos are kind of broken up. Offset is now no longer part of the group, and he never got a chance to make it right with them before the group will never be again, will never be the Migos ever again.
And you haven't heard a word from Quavo or Offset. The only thing you've seen is that Offset changed his Instagram profile picture to Takeoff, which was interesting because you always kind of wondered, like, when Migos had this breakup, is it a thing where Offset doesn't get along with both of them? Is it a thing where Offset doesn't get along with Quavo? Because that was always the accusation, is that it was about a girl or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine what Quavo is going through right now because
having to see it.
By some accounts, he was sort of the one who popped off this argument to a certain extent. We don't know if that's true. But
I don't know if he popped it off, but he was a part of the argument.
Yeah, and he was just right there. And like having to, Quavo's somebody you've seen basically like emotionless throughout his career. You've seen very little emotional variety out of him. And then you get to see him screaming in that terrible video right next to Takeoff's body. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what he's going through,